The new NHL CBA, the collective bargaining agreement, is important, but it's also boring as hell for most of us because who wants to read a 167-page document about it? I mean, I did. I didn't read the whole thing. Most of it, kind of skimmed through it, trying to find the biggest changes that we should maybe thank the NHL for, changes that make sense, and changes that we should probably question. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to deliver this information to you in hopefully a not so boring way. And we're going back to the tiers. And here they are. Big change, makes sense, thank you, and why. All pretty self-explanatory. So let's just jump right into it and start with the 2030 Olympics, which is great news for hockey fans. And as we know, in 2026, the NHL is going back to the Olympics in Italy. It's the first time that they're going to be participating in the Olympic Games since 2014. That's how long it's been. That's why the Four Nations was such a success, because us as fans, we were dying for some international hockey. Give us best on best, and we're guaranteed to have it in 2026 and in 2030. And let's not forget, some of the reasons why the NHL didn't go to 2018 or 2022 had to do with some disagreements in 2018 between the NHL and the IOC about insurance and travel insurance, and Korea being a kind of a non-market, I think was a bit of an issue for the NHL. And then in 2022, the NHL and NHLP agreed it was better to use the Olympic window to reschedule postponed games due to COVID. We were at the tail end of COVID, but it was very strange. And also China had some strict quarantine rules. So the NHL wanted to protect its players and I guess protect themselves. We got no best on best, but they're going back, which is good news. So 2030 Olympics, I think, falls into the make sense / thank you category. I'm going to go thank you. Thank you for bringing back best on best. This is exactly what we need. Okay, 84 game regular season. And this one is quite controversial because some people like it. Some people just absolutely despise it. There's no gray area. But they will increase the regular season to 84 games. They're going to shorten training camp, reduce the number of exhibition games. I believe it's around 6.5 or something like that because it's different for every team. So they're reducing it from that to 4 games per team. They're also going to eliminate fitness testing, early preseason medicals / physicals. And that part I get because this isn't the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, or even the 80s where players are going on vacation, putting on 20 to 30 pounds and showing up out of shape and using regular season games to get back into shape. That's not happening anymore. These athletes now train all year round. I mean, Bedard was basically on the ice like a couple weeks after the season ended. This is this new generation of players. So they don't need this extended preseason. They don't need fitness testing. These guys are already in shape for the most part anyway. And it's not really unprecedented to have 84 games considering it's happened twice before, 92, 93, 93, 94. And I understand why they're doing this. More teams, more money. I mean, there's 32 teams right now, probably going to be 34. The NHL is a little watered down. Too many regular season games, too many teams, too many players. That's been an issue for a long time, and it's only going to increase. Okay, you cut out 2 of the regular season or 2 of the preseason games added to the regular season. It's too much regular season. We need less. The cup needs to be handed out, not at the end of June. Early June, end of May, that's where it should be. That's not going to be the case. But I understand it. So in a way, it makes sense. It makes sense. I'm going to put it in that category. We don't really need it, but it makes sense. No double retention. So this one is kind of important. Teams can no longer do a double retention trade in which a third party retains a portion of the contract to reduce the player's cap hit on the new team all at once. So a trade example, and this is the one that I came up with. When Ryan O'Reilly went from St. Louis to Toronto, St. Louis retained 50% of his salary, and Minnesota was a third-party team. I think they got a pick. They retained 25%. So 75% of the guy's salary was retained by other teams, and the Leafs just took on the quarter that was left. That can't happen anymore. Now a team cannot retain a contract that has already been retained within 75 regular season days of the first retention. This is where it gets kind of confusing. But days outside of the regular season do not count. That means if a contract is retained at the trade deadline, it cannot be retained again until the second month of the next regular season. So, you can do it. You just gotta wait to do it. And this is kind of frustrating because, being in a salary cap world, at least as a fan, watching as a fan, you're constantly crunching numbers and talking about, no moves and cap hits and how much this guy's going to make AAV. And it takes away from the game. And now in a salary cap world, you got to, as a general manager, you got to find ways to open up some money. And this was one of those ways where, listen, we want this player. You guys don't want him anymore. You want assets for him. We can't take him on because he costs too much money. We need you to retain and another team to make this thing work. And now they're kind of handcuffing teams and telling them, listen, you can't do that. You're going to have to wait a certain amount of time if you want to do it. I don't like it. I question it. It makes sense to me because they want to be tighter, the NHL, when it comes to, I guess, in a way, circumventing the cap, even though that's not the case. I'm going to put it in the why category. Why do that? It's already difficult as is in a hard cap world. Don't make it more difficult. And they're doing that with no double retention. Next, midseason PTOs, ladies and gentlemen, which I like. It's a professional trial contract for those that don't know. Teams can sign players now to a 10-day PTO with right of first refusal on any NHL deal offered. I like this and it makes sense, but what I don't like about it is that during that PTO, that player cannot play any NHL games. Why not? So you're just going to have the guy practice with the team? Put him on the ice. I know he's not making any money, but maybe you give him a little piece for the 10 days. If he can hang with the team while playing regular season games, then you bring him on. Not just, as a part of the practice squad. What's the difference between midseason PTO and the PTO that happens at the beginning of the season, right? It's the same thing, but at least midseason, you can throw him on the ice. Let him play some actual games. It's a good idea. It can produce some great stories. Let these guys play while they're on their PTO. Minimum salary cap increase. This one goes right into the make sense category. With inflation, you guys know the price of eggs now. It's insane. These players need to make more money. So in the past 3 seasons, the NHL league min was $775,000. Next season, 2026-27, it's going to $850, then $900, $950, and by 2030, $1 million. And this also means that existing contracts that include NHL base salary below the new minimums in those seasons will automatically be revised to comply with the minimum. So that's good. So those players who are making less, their cap hit will go up to comply with whatever the minimum cap hit or the minimum salary is for that season. So that's good stuff by the NHL. Mandatory neck protection. This one I'll put in makes sense. This reminds me of when they threw in the visor rule back in 2013. I think it was like players with fewer than 25 NHL games and players coming into the league had to wear a visor. Now they're doing the same thing with neck protection. So beginning 26-27, players with 0 games of NHL experience will be required to wear a cut-resistant neck protection. So we're already seeing this from some players. TJ Oshie had one on, Kopitar, Tyler Bertuzzi. So it's going to become more and more popular and just common, just like the visor. When they brought the visor in, I remember people were up in arms, like, what the hell? Why did they have to wear a visor if they don't want to wear a visor? And now it's just like, it's a visor. It makes sense. People want to keep their eyes. People don't want to get their necks cut. Let's not have a Malarchuk situation anymore. So good stuff by the NHL there. Next one, no more 8-year deals. This is a big change, and that's where I'm putting it. It's pretty significant. So if you don't know, new contracts, according to the CBA, are now limited to a maximum of 6 years for a free agent signing and 7 years for signing a player who was on the roster at the last trade deadline. So it's gone from 7 and 8 to 6 and 7. And think back to Mitch Marner being traded to the Vegas Golden Knights recently. The reason it was a sign and trade is because Mitch Marner wanted that 8th year, and he was only able to get that from the Toronto Maple Leafs. That's why that happened. And if you're a player, why not get that extra year security and you get that extra do-re-mi, that extra $12 million on your 8th year? It's beneficial. Who doesn't want that type of security? Who doesn't want that kind of money? But that's not going to be the case anymore. And I think that'll likely lead to, higher per year contracts. So AAVs are definitely going to go up and probably more player movement, right? 6 and 7 years. It's a lot less than 7 and 8. And now players can move in their prime. So I think in a league, we're starved for more player movement, more trades, more blockbuster trades, more hockey trades, player for player, stars moving from one team to another. Similar to what we see in the NBA. The NBA is on steroids when it comes to player movement, but I think we need some of that in the NHL. We need some more entertainment, and I think this provides that. And it's a pretty big change because for players, you're going to make more money in less years, and there's a chance you're going to move around. And now for NHL teams, they really have to think about what they want to do with some of these players. So that's a big change to the CBA. Next one, no more dress code. I don't know where to put this one, but here's what it says in the CBA. Clubs are not permitted to propose any rules concerning player dress code. Players are required to dress in a manner that is consistent with contemporary fashion norms. I don't even know what that means. Have you seen some of what people are wearing these days? What is contemporary fashion norms? I like the fact that they're going to let these guys wear whatever they want. Maybe they'll show some personality. What have we been begging for years? NHL players to show some personality. And they've done that over recent years, I think, with, Spittin' Chicklets, what NHL and TNT has done with, Biz Nasty and Gretzky and Tockett's on there. And they've just done a great job of getting players to open up. And I think this is another way to get those players to open up. But at the same time, me personally, I'm kind of old school. I like the dress code. Wear a suit to the game. And it's not like, Austin Matthews is not going to wear a suit with a turtleneck. Of course he is. Patrick Laine is going to wear an insane suit, and he shows off his personality that way. So I think this is like, I don't know, makes sense. It makes sense, right? Because you want these players to show more personality. Now you're going to get it. But NHL, when these guys start wearing some crazy shit, because that's exactly what's going to happen. Someone's going to wear some like a crop top with a visor and cowboy boots, and the NHL's going to be, what that? You can't come to the game like that. That's not contemporary fashion norm, but it is, because you can basically wear whatever you want now wherever you want to go. It's not like it was in the 70s and the 60s, and everyone had to, be fashion. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. Everyone wanted to wear suits and look good, right? That's not really the case anymore. So don't rag on these guys when they're dressing crazy, because that's exactly what's going to happen. Next change, no emergency backup goalies, which really bothers me. So now teams will be able to carry their own third string professional goalie for this purpose. So no more Scott Fosters, accountants going in net for the Chicago Blackhawks. No more Zamboni drivers going in for the Carolina Hurricanes and beating the Toronto Maple Leafs while on the Maple Leafs salary because he was with the Toronto Marlies. We're not going to see those stories anymore, and it sucks, but I understand it. And there are rules that comes with this change. Now, teams must declare an e-buck 48 hours before the start of the season and 24 hours before each game. The player will travel with the one team to all games instead of being one person assigned to both teams at any given game. So before, each team would have some emergency sitting up in the stands. And it could have been an accountant, could have been some old player, could have been anybody. And that's not the case. So third string goalies are going to be a normal thing moving forward in the NHL. It makes sense, but I'm going to put it in the why category because it gave us so many good stories, and now we just don't have that. And I get it. The NHL doesn't want a Zamboni driver impacting the result of a very important game. I understand it, but it sucks. No more paper loans. So this one, I think, is a big change as well. Let me explain it. So the NHL is eliminating paper loans, which occurred when players were assigned to the AHL on paper only and never had to report to the minor league club. The practice reduced the players' compensation because they were paid at the AHL rate for the days they were on loan. So basically, teams would send down a player. Let's just say the Leafs would send down Max Domi. He's not a two-way player. Let's say he's a two-way player. He was waivers exempt. So if you sent him down, you didn't have to go through waivers. They sent him down to open up some cap space. Maybe they brought a player off injured reserve or they were making a trade or something along those lines. But Domi would never actually play in the AHL. That wouldn't happen. Now, you can't do that. Again, this was something that general managers were using because it's a hard cap world. You got to find a way to open up some funds. And now they can't do that. So the league is looking to restrict this with a new rule that states that the players must report to the AHL and play one game before being called up, with the exception of goalies if the NHL team doesn't have two healthy goalies on the NHL roster. So that's a pretty big change. If you're getting sent down as a player, you're going to have to play, and you're not making NHL salary for the days that you're down there. Pretty tough to swallow for a player, and it's a big change in the NHL, specifically for general managers trying to figure out how to get around this hard cap. All right, next here is playoff salary cap. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a massive, massive change. Remember, this doesn't kick in this season. All these kick in 26, 27, and the CBA is good for 4 years. But this is a big one because this is what everyone has talked about for so long. It's basically the long-term IR playoff rule. That loophole that Florida just used with Matthew Tkachuk, Vegas used it with Mark Stone. Tampa used it with Kucherov. All those teams ended up winning Stanley Cups. And this really started back in 2015. I think, right? 2015, Patrick Kane got hurt for the Blackhawks before the deadline. They shut him down. They opened up like $6.5 or $7.5 million in cap space. Traded for 3 players at the deadline. Patrick Kane came back for the playoffs. They won the Stanley Cup. So that pretty much kicked that all off. But here's the new rule. Teams will only receive LTIR amount equal to prior season's average salary unless player is definitely out for the entirety of the playoffs. And just so you know, this past season, the average salary was around $3.8 million. So let's just say $4 million. So if you shut down a $10 million player, you're not getting $10 million in cap relief. You're going to get the average salary, so $4 million. So you're still getting some relief, just not as much as you wanted. It's an interesting rule, interesting change, because a lot of people were yelling for it and screaming that this isn't fair. What the hell? These no tax states, they can do whatever they want. Well, now you're not going to be able to do it anymore. At least you could do it for one more season, then it's done. I don't blame the teams, though, for using that, because they weren't cheating, per se. I mean, they just found a loophole and they used it, right? Hey, this guy's actually hurt. Maybe not hurt enough to miss the playoffs, but hurt enough to shut him down for the regular season, or at least the remainder of the regular season. I thought it was smart on teams to do that, and I also thought more teams probably should have jumped on it. Like, you want to use that loophole. If you're a team that's comfortably in a playoff spot with 20, 30 games remaining or whatever it is before the trade deadline, then maybe try and open up some space. All right, the next one. Retired Players Healthcare Program. I'm going to put this in the thank you to it's a makes sense one, but thank you to the NHL. It's about time. So a $4 million annual emergency healthcare and wellness fund is being established for those retired players. The number, in my opinion, needs to be a lot higher than $4 million. Like, if you're a retired player, and you have health issues in the United States where you have to pay for healthcare, I mean, you're going to need some significant amount of money to take care of yourself. And these players need that. Not all players made a lot of money. There are guys who played, 700, 800, 900 games that didn't make a lot of dough. And maybe they weren't great with their money. But regardless of how they dealt with their finances, they're still part of the NHL family. The NHL needs to take care of their people, and it's finally taken a step in the right direction. It's probably taken too long, but this is a start. That number of $4 million needs to go up significantly for these players, but this is a great move by the NHL and the NHLPA. Last one, sponsorship restrictions. So no endorsements involving tobacco or cannabis, including CBD products. Okay. No one's really smoking anymore. I mean, everyone's smoking the other stuff, but I don't know. I guess it makes sense. But at the same time, you have gambling ads plastered all over your broadcast, all over the boards. Some players are spokespersons or spokespeople for these betting companies. What's the difference, really? Right? What's the difference, NHL? But it makes sense, so it goes in the makes sense category. Okay, there it is. I tiered the NHL CBA. I don't think I would ever do something like that, but here we are. I hope you took something from this. Let me know in the comments below. What do you think of some of these changes? There's more out there on that 167-page document. If you want to read every single line in it, you could probably find some other things. But to me, these were some of the bigger changes that were added to the CBA. So it was very interesting to me to see that, and I kind of wanted to categorize it for you guys. And I know a lot of people don't want to read those things. It's boring when you get into like the business side and the financial side of sports. We're sports fans. We just want to watch the players, watch the game, and have a good time. But sometimes you got to dig a little bit deeper and figure out what the hell is actually going on behind the scenes. So I hope this helped. Let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you think of the changes to the CBA.